Four on the floor, brought to you by Citywide Banks. 4 questions, 30 seconds each. When you hear the bell, well, you're supposed to stop talking, but we never do. Question number 1.
Sure we do.
Albert Pujols. What will his rank be when it's all said and done on the list of the greatest first baseman ever?
Top 10. Is that fair enough? Or
Really? You're not going to give him a little more credit than that? Just top 10?
Oh, I can go through people. Would you like? I mean,
sure, name a few
because
that you think could end up ahead of him.
Stan Musial. People think about him as
your
left field.
favorite player growing up, yeah.
Yeah, and Stan Musial was an incredible first baseman. George Sisler. Go way back. George Sisler. Lou Gehrig. He's better than Lou Gehrig, you think?
I didn't say that.
I'm just saying.
I'm just asking you where he'd rank.
In the top 10. Where would you rank him?
He's 35 years old. He's finally healthy for the first time in 3 years. He's leading all of baseball in home runs. If he can be just a semblance of what he was in St. Louis, and it looks like he is right now, by the time it's all said and done, I think he's number 2 behind only Lou Gehrig. I think he surpasses Jimmy Fox. That's how good his numbers will be. Woody, he's going to be a 600-plus home run guy. He had a .330 average in those 10 years in St. Louis. Do you realize this? Am I supposed to shut up?
Yeah,
One more thing, very quickly. In 10 years in St. Louis, 3 MVPs and the runner-up 4 times. Pretty impressive.
And I'm sure you talked to him. I've talked to him 4 times when he came to town.
Yeah.
Well, one of the all-time great guys. One
Very
of the
nice
most
guy.
charitable people in the world. Friendly. So he's I want a segment every day. Good guy. He's one of the good guys.
He is. All right, second question. Pittsburgh Steelers just gave the head coach, Mike Tomlin, a contract extension. He'll be there through 2018. Would you want him as your head coach? Do you like him?
4 division titles in 8 years. Pardon me. 5 playoff appearances. Won a Super Bowl?
Yep.
Won a Super Bowl. Sure. I think the players like him, but they respect him. And it's so difficult. We talked earlier about, Walt Weiss. I think he's respected by the players. Do they like him? Yeah. It's rare that you get both of those things and still be a stern taskmaster.
Yeah.
And he is.
I would take Tomlin in a second. He's a steadying influence, and he's got this inner fire that burns. Even though he rarely, if ever, raises his voice, you can just see it bubbling under the surface. He's a very steady hand, and I like him. I mean, he's had a lot of success there. Do you realize that they will have had only 3 coaches in the last 50 years? Talk about a stable franchise. All right, let's read some quotes from Kevin Durant that were made during the recent Players Union Awards, where they gave James Harden the MVP. The Players Union did. James Harden the MVP over Steph Curry. Here's the quote. I think media and guys get too much power to vote on stuff like that, quite frankly. I don't think you really know a lot about, or as much as we know about it. He's talking to the media. We play against these guys every single night. We battle against these guys. We know how they handle their teammates. We know how they approach the game. I don't think you guys know as much as we do, and I don't see why you have more power than we do. You guys really don't know blank. No bell. I didn't say the word. Is Kevin Durant right? Should the players in every sport be the ones voting on things like MVP, Cy Young Award, et cetera, et cetera?
Sure, why not? I don't care. Let everybody vote. Have you ever watched the Golden Globes?
Yeah.
Golden Globes, Oscars,
where the actors
Choice
and actresses
Awards.
vote on the other actors and actresses.
I've never had. I don't care. I mean, people can decide themselves.
Yeah.
Lists, people like lists. People like. I'm happy for it. I thought you and I were there. We didn't go. Guess what? A lot of players. LeBron didn't go. He was there all weekend. The NBA and the players should embrace this together and make this a full week in Las Vegas and make it like the NFL draft or the combine, where the summer league players awards, but make it live. They didn't get media attention. They're blaming the media. They didn't show up for 2 days afterward. So you need to make it a live event.
I've always felt there should be a combination of media voting and the players voting, because I've always felt nobody knows the players better than the players do. Yet the media is able to watch all the games all the time. Some of the players, they don't see everybody play. They don't get as much of a sample viewing sample, as does the media. So I've always felt the players should have more of a say in MVP awards and things like that. So I'd like to see it. All right, last question. Scrabble or Monopoly?
I'm a great Scrabble player. I once had a radio talk show. There was a general talk show. I had the state Scrabble champion on. She and I said, we're going to play Scrabble on the radio show.
Yeah.
And some people in the media called it the worst 2 hours in the history of talk radio. But how would they know if they didn't listen to the entire 2 hours? I beat the state Scrabble champion. There's a guy now that's like the greatest Scrabble player in history. Have you seen that story?
Yes.
Yeah. Monopoly is, that's lucky.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a words guy, much like you are. I want to use my intellect in these. Monopoly, the only intellect is, well, should I or should I not buy hotels and houses? You buy everything in Monopoly, by the way. You just keep buying, even if you have to go into debt. Yeah, I'm a Scrabble guy too.
Plus, I don't want to go.
I play Words with Friends, which is Scrabble.
It may be difficult for Ty Lawson to play the Monopoly because he's going to go to jail. So
he can maybe play Words with Friends if they give him an iPad.
Yeah.
All right, Four on the Floor brought to you by Colorado.
I don't have any friends. I play with Words with Friends, but I don't have any friends, so I got nobody to play with.
Four on the Floor is brought to you by Citywide Banks. They're a family-owned, Colorado-focused business bank. They have a number of locations, a dozen locations, all around Denver and Boulder, so keep your eye out for it. There's one near you, I'm sure. They provide services that your business needs, and they support a lot of charities around Colorado. So do your banking as we do at Citywide Banks.